Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're tackling a concept that, well, it's praised everywhere in leadership circles, but it's rarely executed with the kind of rigor it really deserves.
Mm-hmm.
And that's stewardship. And we're not just, limiting this to managing a budget.
Right.
We're going to dive into the whole scope of it: time, talent, resources, and I think most critically, trust.
Absolutely.
Trust.
Our mission today is pretty clear. Let's try to take stewardship off that philosophical shelf and turn it into something
Measurable, a competency that really defines leadership and guides your decisions. But this means we have to face that really uncomfortable question, the one most leaders try to avoid.
The big one.
Yeah. How do you actually measure something so human, so intangible like faithfulness in management without, just reducing it to a meaningless checklist?
Okay, let's unpack this. That tension you just described between the noble idea and the hard measurement, that's everything for a high-performing leader today.
It is.
The days of just relying on good intentions or, a gut feeling, they're over.
They're long gone.
Stakeholders, your own teams, boards, they're all demanding transparency. They want to see the evidence of faithful management. And, the sources we've analyzed are just crystal clear on this. What you cannot measure, you cannot meaningfully steward. It's that simple.
Right.
So stewardship needs to be reframed. It's not just a nice idea. It's an operating system, really.
An operating system. I like that.
It brings visibility. It brings accountability. And it means leaders who actually quantify this stuff will just lead with so much more clarity and credibility.
And if a leader decides to just ignore that rigor,
well,
the sources seem to suggest it's not some big dramatic explosion.
yeah,
It's more like a quiet, slow erosion of momentum.
that's it. You end up flying blind. You start mistaking all your activity for actual trackable progress.
And the principle here is that we aren't really owners of these resources, are we?
We're entrusted managers.
Mm.
That's the key.
But what I find so fascinating is that this demand for accountability, for transparency,
Yeah.
it isn't some new corporate trend.
Not at all.
It's ancient history.
It really is. I
Yeah.
mean, to get the gravity of today's demand, you have to look back. Look at the biblical precedent.
Okay, where do we start?
Start at the very beginning. Genesis. Adam was told to work it and take care of it.
Cultivate and guard.
Exactly. That's the original job description for a steward. And implicit in that is an outcome, an ordered, thriving garden. If it was all thorns and chaos,
He wasn't doing his job.
he wasn't being faithful.
Mm.
The expectation of a measurable, observable result starts right there.
And then you jump forward centuries later, and the parable of the talents, or the minas, it reinforces this, but it raises the stakes quite a bit.
It really does.
It brings in this idea of risk
Yeah.
and multiplication.
That's the unequivocal lesson for leaders. The master didn't just hand out resources to keep them safe. He expected a return.
Multiplication.
Multiplication. And the servant who just buried his talent, he said he was being cautious, right? Protecting the asset.
But he failed the test.
He was productive 0. And that teaches us that good stewardship demands intelligent risk-taking. It demands growth, not just preservation. The master asked a very direct question. What did you do with what I gave you?
And you were judged on your results,
Yeah.
your measurable outcomes. And that demand for transparent reporting, it goes straight into the early church, which, when you think about it, is maybe the most impressive early example of resource management.
Especially with no tech, no spreadsheets.
None.
But they managed these complex communal resources with incredible integrity. They had a very clear KPI, a key performance indicator of success.
Your choice.
The text says there was not a needy person among them. When the resources were managed well, the needs were met. That's a powerful, measurable result.
And the Apostle Paul, he seems to raise the bar even higher when he's organizing collections for Jerusalem.
Oh, he anticipated every possible criticism. He was meticulous.
Yes, sir.
He insisted on a documented distribution of the funds using multiple trusted people. And he said why? He did it to avoid criticism, not only in the eyes of the Lord, but also in the eyes of man.
So it's a mandate for internal controls,
Yeah.
for visible accountability.
Exactly. Integrity requires transparency. It's that simple.
So that ancient standard brings us right back to the modern toolkit. If we're aiming for that level of integrity today, we need systems.
You do.
And the answer from our sources seems to be what they call the Comprehensive Stewardship Dashboard.
A dashboard, yeah.
This is what integrates the metrics across finance, time, and human potential. But first, maybe a quick clarification for everyone listening. When we say metrics, we're really talking about KPIs, right?
Yeah.
Key performance indicators.
That's right.
These are just the objective, trackable proof points that show whether responsible management is actually happening.
And this part is critical. The dashboard has to be a mirror, not a hammer.
A mirror, not a hammer. Okay.
Because if leadership uses the data to punish people, accountability just dies instantly. Teams will hide things, they'll massage the numbers, they'll fear failure.
Where's a mirror?
A mirror just reflects reality. It shows you where you're strong, and it shows you where the leader needs to step in and offer support or more resources.
Yeah.
It tells the story of where things are actually going.
Okay, let's dive into the metrics. Let's start with the one everyone knows. Financial resources. The stewardship of treasure.
Right.
This is about prudence, sustainability, and making sure everything aligns with the mission.
Right. And it's easy to track, say, gross income,
Right.
but that's not stewardship.
Oh,
2 KPIs help a lot here. First, the programmatic spending ratio.
okay, what's that?
It's the percentage of every dollar that goes directly to your mission-critical programs versus, administrative overhead.
And the insight there is huge because that ratio, it doesn't just measure efficiency, it measures faithfulness to the mission, doesn't it?
Precisely. If your ratio is low, it might mean leadership is unintentionally prioritizing the structure, the overhead, over the actual mission.
It reveals where your true commitment is.
It's an indicator of priority. And second one is cash reserves. So how many months of operating expenses do you have saved?
A buffer.
A buffer. If you're always living paycheck to paycheck, you're not stewarding the future. Stability is a measurable act of prudence. It lets you weather storms.
Okay, so moving past money, we get to the trickier part. Time and operations.
The irreversible asset.
The stewardship of the irreversible asset. I love that. You can always raise more money, but you can never get back a wasted minute.
And this is where so many organizations quietly fail the test. Stewardship of time demands ruthless efficiency.
Ruthless.
It does. And for nonprofits or community groups, one simple but really powerful metric is volunteer engagement hours.
So if those hours are dropping,
If they're dropping consistently, that's a red flag. It points to a failure in the system that supports and appreciates your people.
I am curious, though, because the sources mention one metric that sounds really hard to track. It's called time allocation to core mission.
It is challenging.
How do you even begin to track that without it turning into, destructive micromanagement?
Yeah, that's the danger. It's not about tracking every single minute of someone's day. It's about a macro analysis
Of the team's bandwidth.
of the leadership and team bandwidth. Yes. You track the percentage of time spent on mission-aligned tasks versus administrative stuff. Or, and this is a big one, unproductive meetings.
Meeting.
If your senior leaders are spending 40% of their month in meetings where they're just passive listeners, that is a massive, measurable stewardship failure of their time. The goal isn't to be Big Brother. It's to identify and get rid of the time sinks. If a leader can cut unproductive meeting time by just 15%, that 15% becomes brand new bandwidth for core work. That's a quantifiable return on your time investment.
And that brings us to the final and probably most vital asset, talent and people. The stewardship of human potential. This is about recognizing, nurturing, and deploying the unique gifts of your people. We often just assume people are in the right roles, but measurement is what stops that assumption from becoming complacency.
It is.
So 2 KPIs here. First, the gifts discovery and placement rate.
Yes.
The percentage of your people who are actively serving in a role that actually uses their gifts and passions.
That is a tough one to track, but it's so vital because it forces leaders to invest in assessments, in training, in coaching,
You move beyond just filling empty slots.
to actually optimizing human potential. A low rate here means you're just letting immense talent sit on the sidelines, and that's a profound failure of stewardship. And the second one is the leadership development pipeline. It's simply the number of people who are in formal training or mentorship or succession planning.
It measures the health of your future.
It does. If that pipeline is empty, you aren't stewarding for sustainability. You're just riding the current generation of leaders until they burn out.
Okay, so this whole approach, treasure, time, and talent, is really powerful. But we have to talk about the risks.
Absolutely.
As we said, the mirror can become a hammer very, very quickly.
Yes. The single greatest danger is what the sources call the worshiping the metrics trap.
Worshipping the metrics.
It's when leaders elevate what's easy to count over what's actually important, but harder to measure.
Can you give us a concrete example of that, like a vanity metric chase?
Oh, easily. It's focusing relentlessly on big, countable numbers like weekend attendance or social media likes.
Things that look good on a report.
Exactly. While ignoring the metrics of deep transformation, things like retention rates or participation in small groups or financial generosity per person. Attendance is easy, spiritual formation is hard.
So you end up incentivizing shallow activity.
You incentivize entertainment over genuine heart change. And that creates a performance culture that actively undermines true stewardship. What's fascinating here is how using metrics as a weapon, as a hammer, it creates a culture of fear.
A culture of fear.
Yeah. Imagine a leader just harshly reprimanding a team because a new, difficult, but necessary initiative had low initial numbers.
The result is obvious. The team becomes totally risk-averse, which is the exact opposite of that mandate for multiplication we talked about.
Precisely. They'll avoid anything challenging that might not give them good numbers right away. They'll just stick to the safe, predictable stuff that keeps the dashboard green.
Even if it's not driving real growth.
Right. That fear just strangles the intelligent risk-taking that faithful management requires.
So the solution isn't to throw out the dashboard. We need the accountability.
No, you need it.
It's about balancing the equation. You have to balance the quantitative data, the KPIs, with qualitative stories.
The stories are the bridge. They absolutely are. KPIs speak to the mind, to the board. Stories speak to the heart, to the team.
So if your financial report shows, say, a 20% increase in spending on community outreach.
That's necessary data. You need that number.
But the story of the one person whose life was completely changed because that spending provided food and training and a path forward. That narrative is what turns the raw data into compelling proof.
It validates the investment.
It humanizes it.
It totally humanizes the metrics. And leaders have to be committed to collecting and sharing those stories of transformation. That's what bridges the gap between the number and the purpose.
So we've covered the mandate, we've defined the tools, the dashboard, and we've navigated the dangers. Stewardship really, it demands clarity and it demands integrity in managing what we've been given. And building that dashboard, it seems like that's the path from just having good intentions to showing demonstrable, visible impact.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture for a second, while the dashboard gives you that corporate accountability, the ultimate accountability is always personal. It's spiritual.
Right.
The measurements are just a reflection of how seriously we take being faithful managers in every part of our lives.
So after this deep dive into time, treasure, and talent, what does this all mean for you, person who's listening right now, in your own sphere of influence? So what does this all mean?
Well, the source material mentions one last really powerful metric, the stewardship of influence, our capacity to affect the character or the behavior of others.
And that's maybe our most potent resource.
Yeah.
And the most intangible.
It is. So ask yourself this. Beyond the financials, beyond the operational efficiency, beyond placing talent, how would you even begin to measure and report on the ultimate impact of your influence on the people right around you?
Wow.
That challenge, I think, moves the dashboard from just a management tool to a defining personal discipline.